Impacts of flooding and food security is the topic for today's discussion.
In 2012, we had a similar situation like we have in 2022. And as it is, you mentioned about the impact of the flood on especially food security. The purported Lagdo Dam in Cameroon. In 1982, the history has it that when that dam was going to be built, Nigeria signed a contract with Cameroon, or an agreement, an MOU so to speak, and said we will do our own counterpart damming, dam the rivers, make some kind of buffer dams. It is important that government must have a human face to everything they do. What about the times you buy food, you throw away PET bottles, you don't dispose your waste adequately? In other words, you are also contributing to the flooding. This is the only country where when the prices of things goes up, no matter what happens, even if Jesus comes and beg them, they won't bring the prices down.
Never come down. So we cannot discuss anything meaningful actually in Nigeria without, when you talk about development, without mentioning government.
Of course.
They must take the lead. They have what it takes. Let's not be channeling our money to things that are not important. But let's look at this. Because care is not taken again. I think I also read that they also said again that next year flood is going to be worse than this.
Yes, because the issue of climate change is there. It's staring us in the face.
Welcome back. Still discussing impacts of flooding and food security. Well, that's taking to another question again. So lastly from me, how can we ensure food security in our country, Nigeria?
It all goes back to the issue of planning.
Plan again.
There was a time in this country, there was a policy known as the Green Revolution.
Yes.
Where young people were encouraged to go into farming. And government will give subsidies, not subsidy on petrol, but subsidy on agriculture. Where young people were encouraged with a whole lot of incentives, tax rebates, and things like that.
Those things don't sustain, they don't last. But those are things that
where are we
help
with those
us
today? So when we talk about
Operation Feed the Nation came again, where are we?
Exactly. So when we talk about tackling food insecurity, it has to do with detailed well planning. For example, Benue State is the yam producer for Nigeria. Yeah. But I listened to an MD of one of the agencies in Benue, and he says this is 2022. Since 1960, we got our independence. Benue State cannot boast of exporting a quantity of yam that can even feed a household. I mean, it's bad. It's bad for us. So we need to look at the future. It's not only rice, because I hear the government says, some of the take home for this government is, we've done so much in rice production. We've done so much in rice production. I still bought a bag of rice a few days back, and it cost me about 40,000 naira. You won't believe it, Nigerian rice. So what are we saying? There's a need for planning. Another thing that I need to mention after the fact that we've talked about agriculture and the need for young people to go into it is that as an advocate for renewable energy and a better future, we need to watch what we do to our environment. We all have a role to play. In this part, government doesn't take the blame alone. Okay. We all have a role to play. Yeah. And what do I mean? We need to start moving from things that destroy the planet. There are countries or states in the world that says in the next 10 years, in the next 20 years, we won't have any vehicle that produces fossil fuel in our environment anymore. What are we doing? We are still talking about crude oil. Man, can I shock you? Over 57 oil wells were submerged in this current flood.
Wow.
And we still cannot meet our OPEC quota for about 1.7 million barrels a day. So imagine 57 oil wells sunk, then the output goes down. Okay. And everything about this nation is centered on oil.
Yes, that's true.
And that is the same oil where the subsidy is also taken from. That's the same oil the politicians are dreaming to suck. That's the same oil they take the money and go and starch abroad. So we need to diversify. And that has to do with even how we vote in our 2023 elections. We need to look at the issues. Who is going to save us from this quagmire? So when it comes to issues like this, we all have a role to play. I keep saying that. Then the truth is, we have LPG in Nigeria. Do you know, since I was born, Nigeria has been flaring gas. And that is the gas now that in Ukraine and Russia, people are looking for gas to buy. And we are flaring it, wasting it away. We can change, we can improve and use more clean energy in terms of electricity, in terms of cooking, and all of those things. So we can save our environment from impending danger.
Thank you so much for all these explanations that you gave. Sometimes I look cold when I look at all the things happening around us. I'm beginning to think, because I'm for the youth. Yeah. If we don't correct this, now how would their future actually be?
Exactly, yes.
Are we going to leave all these things for these young ones coming up to correct? So government, please listen to us and do what it can so that the future of our children will really be very, very bright. And everybody will live happily. We'll have what it takes. If we channel our resources in the right direction, we can afford to do something and change anything that we want to change here in Nigeria. God really bless us so well. But because we are not neither self-centered, or we are confused on what to do, or I don't really know what is really happening. But what I'm trying to say, we should not allow this to repeat itself. Before I start taking the girls, can't donate clothes, as you said, donate this one. Let's see what we can do to avoid a repeat of this. It's really, really very devastating. Some of us in this area didn't experience it, but I put myself in the shoes of those who were really affected by this flood. Please, let's do something. Well, we'll take a break. Now come back, enter the question and answer session. Vivid View.
Say and do it.
My name is Odedin Ogbenro. My question is, what are the proactive measures taken by government on flooding and food security, then farmer herders crisis?
I am Mr. Champion. Aside government funding that is difficult to access, what other ways can you suggest that farmers can raise funds to enhance farming activities? Thank you.
Welcome back. There are already a lot of interesting questions from the audience. So, our guest, please provide the answers.
Thank you. So one of our audience asked, how is government, making proactive measures towards addressing food insecurity and, of course, the herders farmers crisis? Let me say this. The approach by government begs for more. What do I mean? Yes, they say they are doing stuff. I'm not here making a case for government, but we've seen a bit of some measures, but it's still not enough. Still not enough. So proactive measures are different from reactive measures. What we've seen over the years are reactive measures. The event happened, then they come into the play. Rather than plan, some of the things we have mentioned since the beginning of the show are things they can do to avoid this same case of 2012, 2022 repeating itself maybe in 2023. The herders farmers crisis is one that has not left us. It's like a recurring malaria. Although the approach by the military and the security agencies in the north is yielding some form of results, but it's already spilling over. The Lagos-Ibadan Expressway is now a no-go area. And that's one of the most busiest roads in West Africa, where people move goods and services back and forth. So the herders farmers crisis is one that whether it's the security architecture, whether it's the government's willingness to address the real issues, whether it's segregation, whether it's people wanting to make a nation for themselves and all of that, we all need to come and sit at the table and ask ourselves, where do we go from here? The other one is about the seemingly seen hypocrisy and ineptitude in terms of assessing funds from government agencies for small farmers like my friend who asked the question. And of course, we've seen that not just in farming alone, but across all kinds of businesses in Nigeria, raising or getting funds is always a very Herculean task. I remember starting my business some years ago. I had to take money from friends and families. And that's what I encourage young people to always do. Save something, then get from friends and families. Don't always be in a hurry to borrow. Okay? Another thing you can do is what they call crowdfunding. There must be a well-articulated business plan. Present it. and tell people, if you invest into my business, you get a percentage of this. The microfinance banks are there that produces or provides maybe 1% of, profit and all of those things. The last thing I would like to address, though it's not part of your question, is the high population rate. We need to work on that. Otherwise, we may be, struggling the next few years with the meager resources that the country produces for the number of people on ground.
So your parting words now.
Yes, so on a final note, like I said, and I'll say it again, the issue of climate change, issue of flooding, issue of food insecurity, issue of whatever it is as a nation and as a people, we all have a role to play. The question is, are you playing your role for the future?
I think I also came into his last question, say, are you playing your role for the future? Because he mentioned it, even when rain is falling, people will go now say, oh, this opportunity has come for us to park our debt and just point the flood. And the flood will take down, blocking our waste systems and all that, drainage systems. So these are ways we're supposed to, things we're supposed not to do, so that we will all live in a very good environment and be able to avoid some of these things we're just talking about. So play your own role the best way you know you can to help yourself and help your neighbor. We should really be a brother's keeper here. And those of us who live where these floods are really affected, do all you can to give a helping hand one way or the other. And then you that is even affected, see how you can make a plan to leave from that area first. Don't stay there again. Maybe after this season, you will go out and rebuild your house and stay in the same place again. No. So let's also be proactive and do something better. I'm not waiting for everything now for government. They really have major role to play, but let's also help ourselves because we are the one really suffering it. We are the one really suffering it. In the high they can need to, okay, give them certain things and that's all. But you are the one suffering. We lost lives, properties, and so many things because of this flood. That is the way I want to conclude this. Thank you so much, guests, production crew, audience here, and also viewers out there. I want to thank you for your patience with us. Okay, I invite artist Gabby the Hustler to sign up this program. Please join us next week, same time, same station. I am Achilles. God bless. Vivid View.
Say it and do it.
Hey now, it's your boy Gabby.
To beat is biology.
My Melanie, my remedy. I hope you know say you're my harmony. Not only you, when me fit to tell I do. And if you know be you, wanna be do lie. Any bag I want try, any bag I come close, I go blow and throw it. For your case, I fit squeeze, I fit scatter this place, where them no say I decorate. So make you love me in your jail and never free me, cause I know one get another babe. I want you dancing on my bed. I know go do your thing, so baby you won't regret. Oh 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 baby you won't regret. In a summer, in a winter, I promise no go ever leave you waka. And even when you no get rubber, I promise no go leave you for another. And even when you know they close, I promise not to cheat, I don't terrorize. I pray to God you won't give up. Together forever we won't leave us. Any bag I want try, any bag I come close, I go blow and throw it. For your case I fit squeeze, I fit scatter this place, make them know say I dey crazy. So make you lock me in your jail, and never free me cause I know one get another babe. I want you dancing on my bed, I no go do your things, so baby you want me great. Oh baby you want regret, oh baby you want regret, oh baby you want regret, oh baby you want regret. I've been all over around the world, I've never seen no type of be like whoa. Cause this vibe no common, your shape alone I swear they turn me on.